Boys, girls, and betweeners, welcome back. It's been a while. It's been a few weeks since Nair and I did a co-pod enabled together because fates have intervened. Things just tore us apart. Inspired that song that said that they will never tear us apart, and we have not been able to record anything for a little while. I blame mostly Nair, man. Is that your fault?
Sort of.
Kinda, maybe. No, you had cons to do, you had things to do, and then I had things to do. So just things have been kind of crazy for the last few weeks, but we are definitely back, and we are talking about new things. Well, actually, not really new things so much because we're actually kind of find this kind of funny that in spite of the fact that it has been weeks since we did a podcast together, that there hasn't been a whole lot that's really happened. I mean, there have been some big announcements, but we still had to go kind of digging a little bit. We didn't really find anything that was immediately kind of like, whoa, this is like, this is a shit that we should talk about this week. So, I don't know if it's just kind of like a lull at the moment, I guess. There have definitely been some big releases. There have been things like Metal Gear Solid 5 and Destiny Taken King, which we will be talking about in this podcast. But overall, I don't know. What do you think, Name? What do you think regarding the whole news cycle that's going on at the moment?
It's the dawn before the holiday season, so I guess everyone's just kind of playing things close to their chest. Tokyo Game Show's going on, so we do have a few trailers of a few things, but nothing that's coming out like anytime soon anyway.
Yeah, and even then, there hasn't really been any big announcements coming out of TGS that you kind of really expect. We got to see some Pokemon Go, we got which we will talk about obviously, we got to see some Pokken Fighters, we got to see Metal Gear Solid Online, things like that, but there wasn't really like any, I don't know, I wouldn't really call big stuff coming out of there.
Persona 5 trailer looks good.
I haven't actually seen that because I haven't played any of the Persona games because they all came out on handheld and on PS2 for the most part, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've never actually had a chance to play them. I'd be interested to see Persona 5. I mean, I have not actually played a game where you get to play a Japanese high school student before, so that's actually kind of a novelty for me. So I'm looking forward to that, but yeah, I haven't actually looked at it yet. Anyway, that's talking about the things that I haven't looked at is so exciting. We're going to move on to a new topic. So first and foremost, I want to talk about Taken King came out this week, and long-time listeners of the podcast will know that Nair and I are not fans of Destiny in the slightest fucking bit, actually. Which it's kind of like unfair, I suppose. I want to like Destiny. I really do. If you're a person who enjoys Destiny, you are completely entitled to that, and there's nothing wrong with that. Because I really wanted to like Destiny. I bought it purely on the pedigree of Bungie's track history with games like Halo, obviously, and things like that. And obviously, we've talked about this at length before, so I won't go into details why I've fallen away from that. But the thing that's very interesting to me about Taken King this week is not the fact that it dropped, not the fact that apparently it's quite good, from what I've heard. A lot of people are saying that, is the redeemer of Destiny for people like me who did kind of lose interest in it early on. What I'm more interested in is that essentially it's turned into a $40 paywall for people who haven't bought it. So this is coming from, it's being published by Activision, who are well known as being the only company that has somehow actually managed to be more base and degenerate and evil than EA in the gaming industry. And essentially what I'm being told and what I've heard about this is that when you basically one day people were allowed to do strikes, they were allowed to do matchmaking, they were allowed to do all these kind of activities that they would normally be able to do with their copy of Destiny, which they had paid honest to God genuine money for, and Taken King comes out, and the next day, half of that is now locked out. It has become a $40 paywall to a lot of content that they were originally entitled to, which is pretty fucking shitty, if you ask me. Now, man, what have you heard about this, and what are your thoughts?
I've just heard that it's basically a paywall. The people I know who have Taken King don't notice anything different, but the people who don't clearly are missing out on content, and that's no good.
And that's no good, kids. The thing about this is that for people who don't know, Activision, the CEO, is a man called Bobby Kotick, who is basically acknowledged as Satan. He is like the Hitler of video games, because he's a man who is just purely, yes, making video games, let's not lie about this, is a business about making money. There's nothing wrong with that. Every company at the end of the day is out to make money, but this man pursues it to such a degree that it will make your skin crawl. He is a man, I've said this before, I'll say it again, who is quoted as saying that if he thought he could get away with charging people by level to level, that he would do it, that he would charge by the level for games rather than the game itself, because he just doesn't give a fuck about you. And this to me is pretty much a prime example of that. That it's like, okay, you've paid, $60, $70, $80, whatever for your edition of Destiny. In my case, in Australian dollar dues, I paid about $120 because I bought the collector's edition. And now all the content which you paid for, or half of it at least, is now not available to you unless you shell out another $40 to $60.
Yeah, it just screams kind of a cash grab, because obviously a lot of the players who play Destiny are very dedicated to it, so you're basically kind of forcing them to give you more money when, from what I hear, the install base hasn't been growing that much.
Yeah.
So you just kind of wind up with just another paywall for the users who are there, versus trying to do something that'll actually entice people to actually start playing it. Because if you want to just try out Destiny and not pay money for the expansion pack, well, now you're missing even more content that'll put you off the game even more.
Well, I mean, this is what I find interesting about this is that, like, traditionally, games have pushed back very hard against this kind of thing. A prime example of that would be Street Fighter Cross Tekken, when that came out, because, melding of two big brands, Street Fighter and Tekken, that should be a surefire hit. And people just, the fan base lost its fucking mind when they found out that A, half the DLC was actually all the DLC was actually already on disc, it just had to be unlocked. And B, each character had 3 slots for different gems that would give them different abilities depending on how, they were unlocked and things like that. So you could customize your character, fine idea, but all the best gems were locked behind a paywall. You had to pay actual money to buy the really good gems, so it was effectively pay to win in that stage. And I've said this again, I've mentioned this on previous podcasts, but it got buried. It got wrecked. The game is completely abandoned. No one plays it anymore. It's not, played at tournaments. Everyone's gone back to playing Street Fighter 4. And that was kind of the result of that. So Capcom learned a very expensive lesson from that game, but somehow I'm terrified by the prospect that I don't think that's going to happen to this.
No, most Destiny players I know have already bought Taken King because they're already kind of absorbed in Destiny and still like playing it, so they're probably going to eat it up. I think it's more that people from the outside looking in are kind of like, well, this seems kind of pointless.
Yeah, and I mean, Destiny fans, obviously, the first thing they're going to say is, well, it's new content, you have to be able to, it's necessary to be able to access all these new, strike events, these new raids, things like that. I disagree. Yes, new content is new content, you should have to pay for that in certain instances, but there's also the fact that, like, I'm an old school MMO player, I've been playing World of Warcraft since vanilla, and I can tell you that with every expansion that came out with World of Warcraft, for example, that yes, you couldn't access the new content if you didn't buy the expansion, obviously, but it didn't lock me out from doing all the content that I already paid for.
Yeah, pretty much. It's just one of those confusing things. I don't know why they made it this way. I'm sure if the backlash is big enough, they'll try to backpedal and make it available through a patch, but we'll just have to see.
Yeah, I mean, looking from the outside in, I think what's really disappointing to me is that, like, for people who don't know, Bungie was acquired by Microsoft way back, I think around 2000-ish kind of territory, and then I think it was around 2010 they broke free of that. They basically, they made a deal with Microsoft that Halo Reach was going to be their last game, and after that they were released from their contract, and they were a free agent again. So they made this really big deal about, we're free from the evil empire now, we can do what we want. And even if that is the case, and even if Microsoft were evil, they went from the lion's den into the mouth of a fucking Tyrannosaurus from going from Microsoft to Activision. And so there's been a lot of controversy, well, not controversy, there's been a lot of, interesting things happening surrounding that. The composer, Marty O'Donnell, was unceremoniously fired from Bungie Activision earlier this year, and he sued them, and then there's been court documents that have been revealed regarding that, saying that Activision just took control of the project completely away from him, and when he objected, they fired him and whatnot. And so it's really, I can't imagine, well, I was going to say I can't imagine anything worse, but you look at the marketing. It's gone from like this being this really serious kind of like, space opera about you being the chosen one kind of thing, and it's turned to like, bros in space. It's turned to Call of Duty in space. You look at the marketing for Taken King as like guys doing cool ass stuff and having witty catchphrases to like this classic 70s, 80s rock kind of soundtrack in the background, which, as I said, is just exactly the way they market the Call of Duty franchise.
Yeah, that's kind of the disappointing thing. I wanted it to be different than the Call of Duties, to actually have a bit of a brain, or at least kind of an own identity versus just be Call of Duty in space. And It sort of does. It still kind of does, but the marketing has just been awful for it.
Yeah, so we're not going to beat that dead horse for really any longer, but that's just, I suppose it's just, as I said, it's been a disappointment because I really, even to this day, I would love to be able to love this game. I really would, but I just can't let myself do it because there's so many just bad decisions going on and so many unethical decisions going on that I just, I would not especially pay money to just get back to, everyone's saying that, like, Destiny is now the game that it should have been. This is the Destiny experience you've been waiting for. I shouldn't have to pay $160 plus in Australian money, at least, which is still $100 plus in American money, to be able to get the experience that I should have gotten from day one.
Yeah, pretty much. I just don't like the idea of expansions being like completing a game. The base package should have been complete from the start.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Anyway, that's it. That's enough of that. We've definitely gone over this in the past. Our distaste for Destiny is well known, so we're going to move on from that. We're going to talk about the big news that came out of TGS, which is very disappointing, is that Star Fox for the Wii U has been delayed. Now, I know nothing about this, so I'm going to be picking your brains on this, yeah, man. But the first thing that struck me about that when I read the news was that it's kind of surprising because the demo that we saw coming out of E3, I think it was when it was first announced, didn't really look like a very technically complex game. It looked like a pretty basic, like visually, it looked very basic. It looked like your old school kind of Star Fox. It looked like it could have potentially run on on a Wii, on an original Wii if it was HD. But this doesn't look like a game that was having a whole lot of work thrown at it. So it's kind of surprising to hear that it's being delayed of all things. So what do you know about that?
Our best guess is that it's basically because Miyamoto had to stop production a little bit and run the company for 2 months after Iwata died. That's basically what our thought process is as to why it got delayed.
Okay, so how long has it been delayed by, people who don't know?
They didn't give a specific date, but just Q1 2016.
Okay, and it was going to come out in the Christmas period, I imagine?
November, yeah.
Okay, so basically, yeah, so if that is the case, so, I mean, well, what do you think about my early comments? Do you agree? Does it look like kind of a basic game to you?
Yeah, it looks pretty basic. I can't really say much about it because I haven't played it. I know people who have played it, but I'm just hearing that, yeah, it's Star Fox. It's nothing too spectacular, but if you like that sort of thing, it'll be good.
Yeah, so now we were discussing this actually while we were doing our Subscriber Smash video yesterday, which you haven't checked out, you should check out. It's obviously on the channel right before this one. You mentioned that that not only was this basically limiting the Wii U to having only one major title coming out in the Christmas period, which is going to be Xenoblade Chronicles X, but also that basically this was signaling the death knell of the Wii U, which is, that would be slanderous talk if it weren't for the fact that you are obviously a very big Nintendo fan, much bigger than I am. And I was quite shocked to hear that was your estimation. So, what's led you to this conclusion?
Just the fact that there's really nothing coming out this holiday season. We still have Yoshi as well, but that's another B-tier franchise like Star Fox. That's not going to sell systems. Xenoblade Chronicles X might a little bit, but that's just for hardcore RPG nuts. So it's just one of those, there's nothing coming out for the system. There really isn't. And what's coming out next year, besides Star Fox, we're not sure if it's going to come out on the system at all. Considering we have Zelda Wii U, which I'm like 95% sure is going to get ported to the NX, and we have Shin Megami Tensei Cross Fire Emblem, which again has no release date, so I wouldn't be surprised if it too got ported.
Okay, so you're talking about it being moved to the NX though, but I mean, as far as I'm aware at least, we still don't know very much about the NX beyond the name itself, but you seem pretty convinced that it's going to be coming out next year?
Yeah, I'm pretty confident it'll come out next year.
Okay, so what do you know? Do you know anything else about it beyond the name itself, and the fact that it may come out next year, or is it just pure speculation?
It's pretty much just pure speculation, but with how little there's been going on with the Wii U, how little Nintendo's been pushing it or supporting it, all signs to me lead to that the NX is going to come out next year, and they're going to push that hard, and the Wii U will just unceremoniously be killed off.
Fair enough. All right. Well, let's move on from there. So, as I said, one of the big announcements that did come out of TGS was Pokemon Go, which is obviously, we did find out several months ago that Nintendo was partnering with a mobile developer company that are going to be developing, new titles for actual mobile platforms. This looks like to be the first kind of brainchild of that. So, the trailer itself did not show us a damn bit of actual, gameplay from this thing. It seems to be an augmented reality game from what I can tell. But I mean, I've talked to people who have seen this trailer who like, oh my god, it's gonna be freaking amazing. And I think the trailer itself looked fucking amazing, but I think it's gonna oversell and underdeliver considering that it's just a mobile game. So what are your impressions of that?
Pretty much same as yours. Obviously, I'm not the biggest mobile gamer. In fact, I don't mobile game at all because 99% of it is just utter shite. But just looking at the trailer, it seems like a neat idea, but at the same time, it seems like one of those, okay, how is this really going to work when it sits out in the field? Because you can test stuff all you want, but once you put it out in the real world, things can go wrong. And just how much of it is it going to deliver on? I mean, is it basically going to be a real-life Pokemon game, or is it just one of those, oh, you can walk around, catch stuff, and look at it in the Pokedex, and that's about it?
And trade it with your friends.
You can do that already on the main games.
Exactly, yeah. So it's we really don't know anything else about it. It just was basically, if you haven't seen it, obviously there will be some footage in what I'm talking about now, but if you haven't seen it, it's basically just a lot of people just going crazy about seeing Pokemon in the real world. But again, we have no way of knowing how it works or anything else. We can only just assume that it is augmented reality. And I mean, I hope it's fun, but at the moment I'm not really holding my breath at all for it.
No mobile game, just assuming it's going to be crap until it comes out. And
exactly.
If it turns out to be good, hooray! If not, I'm not surprised.
Yeah, the only mobile game I play at all is Hearthstone. That's it for me. So if it has to be better than Hearthstone, is what I'm saying.
Well, how good is Hearthstone?
It's pretty good. It's if we can go off on a tangent for a moment about Hearthstone, I really like it because it is a free-to-play game. And normally free-to-play that you hear is just like a fucking evil thing because it's just loaded with paywalls like we were just talking about and whatnot. I've certainly played my share of free-to-play games like that that are just, the game just gets stupidly hard at a certain point unless you pay money to get, booster packs or whatever where you might get something out of it. But the thing I really like about Hearthstone is that, yes, you can pay money to buy booster packs, but also you can just, it's structured in a way that if you want to and if you're patient, you can just do it normally. You don't have to spend $1 on Hearthstone if you don't want to, because booster packs will come to you more slowly if you don't pay money, but they still will come to you at a reasonable speed. It's not completely, wait days upon days to get one single pack of cards or anything. You can get 2 or 3 in a day if you know what you're doing.
Yeah, that seems pretty fair, all things considered.
Yeah, so I think, and that actually makes me want to spend money on the game because I know they're not actively trying to rip me off.
Yeah, that's something developers need to learn, but at the same time, way too many greedy companies out there just putting everything behind paywalls to make a quick buck.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I mean, there was actually an article I saw on Kotaku earlier this week about a person who was running a mobile free-to-play company, and they were just talking about how they data mine the fuck out of you in the process. So they know, like, especially if you happen to play said free-to-play game through a social media device like, say, Facebook or something like that, they just know everything about you, and they will on-sell your data to other companies, so you'll get marketing materials and shit sent to your email and whatnot, and it's just so goddamn evil.
Yeah, and it starts to get scary at that point.
Yes, indeed. So let's move on from there. We've got, there were 2 new characters announced for Street Fighter V in the interim since the last time we talked. The last time we talked was when Armika was shown off. So we have seen the release of Rashid, who is a Saudi Arabian-looking dude who can control wind. And we've also seen the release of Karin, who is a Street Fighter Alpha character from Street Fighter Alpha 3, which is kind of... It's not surprising in the sense that when Capcom did this big character survey about a year ago, which is obviously where they're getting a lot of these picks from, that she was actually the #1 character that was requested. But it's also surprising in how much this game is actually turning into basically Street Fighter Alpha 5, because every second returning character is coming from an obscure Alpha game at the moment.
Yeah, it seems that way. I'm just surprised at the new character, considering it seemed like the rest of the characters are going to be mostly returning characters. And if you've seen the trailer, you know more about this than I do. Just kind of what's his playstyle seem to be.
Yeah, well, we've got basically, we'll talk about Rashid first. Rashid is a new character. He's wearing a Scouter for DBZ fans. Don't know what it's going to say about Ryu's power level.
For some reason he has that.
I'm going to assume that everyone's power level is over 9,000. So Rashid basically, he seems to be kind of like, he seems to be filling the slot of a zoning character. We don't have really a solid zoning character in the roster from my understanding. I have yet to play the game, unfortunately, but He's basically, he controls wind. He can basically put up. Again, you can kind of see where the developers have been taking a lot of cues from Killer Instinct, which is coming full circle because Killer Instinct originally took a lot of cues from Street Fighter, which is why it's a 6-button fighter. But he can essentially put up walls of wind that move slowly, which will basically constrain the movement of the other person on what they can do, things like that. He has dive kicks, so he's basically kind of feeling like the jury slot in the roster, which is why I'm very skeptical now the jury will actually appear, at least in the initial 16, because he seems to be basically covering her bases in terms of what he can do.
No, it seems pretty unlikely Jury's going to be part of the initial roster, which I know sucks for you, but maybe Rashid will be up your alley in terms of playstyle.
No, I honestly don't like the look of him at all. I think if I'm going to main a character at the start of the game, currently there are 12 characters that have been revealed now as we speak about this. And they've already said that at launch there will be 16 characters. There'll be a lot of characters which will be released for free in a steady kind of stream, which is again something that they're taking from Killer Instinct, that the Killer Instinct releases one character at a time over a period of time. But the initial roster will be only 16 characters. So there's only 4 slots left. They've said there will be 4 new characters, so considering we've only seen 2 so far, that means there are going to be 2 characters left out of the 4 that remain, so there's only going to be 2 returning characters yet to be revealed, and I sincerely doubt the jury will be one of them, considering a few factors which I won't really go into, but yeah, sucks to be me.
A little bit. And we still don't have Guile yet, so I'm sure he's going to be one of the returning characters.
Actually, I would be shocked if Guile does, because, well, 16 characters is a very limited roster to start out with. Obviously, Street Fighter, even Street Fighter Vanilla 4 started with, I think, 24 characters to start out with. So, and obviously that grew into a roster of nearly 50, which is crazy. No wonder they have so much trouble trying to balance the game. But I think that they've been really trying to emphasize the fact that they want each character to be very unique and filling their own kind of like slot in the roster kind of thing. So considering that I was even surprised when they released Ken. I always thought that Ryu was going to be the only Shoto character in the game, so I was very surprised when they released Ken. But to see Guile, I just don't really see him happening, honestly, when we already have Charlie, who obviously covers the Sonic Boom kind of portion of that roster.
Fair enough, but you never know.
You do never know, and if history has proven one thing so far with Street Fighter V, is that I am terrible at picking the roster because none of my predictions have come true so far.
Well, okay, just if you want to know what happened, just go whatever goes against Kane.
Exactly, yes. Just pick what I would not pick, exactly. So that's kind of like what Rashid does. Look, I mean, he does look cool. He's still the kind of character I would play. So to go back to what I was saying, I'm going to main Cammy from the start of this, because if I can't play Jury, I like to play very rushdown-oriented characters, and I think that Cammy's going to fill that slot quite nicely for me.
That certainly fits your style that I've known watching your Street Fighter vids.
And boobs. That fits my my persona as well.
That too. Yeah.
So there's that. So that comes from Rashid. Corinne is actually also a very rushdown-oriented character. From what I've heard, she is definitely an in-your-face, non-projectile style of person. But I know that like Japan has this huge fetish for schoolgirls in these very either like the Sailor Fukus or these very elaborate kind of like very regal kind of style of school uniforms. But that just honestly does nothing for me.
Well, a little too young for you.
Well, that too, but yeah. I just don't care for the schoolgirl look. It just doesn't really appeal to me. I don't know. Maybe I'm broken. I don't know.
Yeah, fair enough. So, you gonna play her at all, or?
I'll check her out. I'll check out all the cast, but probably except Birdie, because he just looks dumb as hell. But pretty much, I hate fat characters. I can't stand fat characters, just on looks alone. But I don't care if you want to say I'm discriminatory. I don't care, because they're not real people. The characters, not the actual fat people. But you get where I'm going with this. I'm going to stop before I keep digging this hole any deeper.
Yeah, pretty much.
So that's going to do it for... That's pretty much covering Street Fighter V. So 4 characters left, 2 of them new. Probably no jury. Sucks to be me. Moving on to our final topic is we're just going to basically just kind of loosely discuss Metal Gear Solid 5. Did get released a couple of weeks ago. Both Nairman and I have had a chance to play it. I think kind of halfway through the game. I'm halfway through, like, I think I'm in the mid-30s, kind of in terms of mission range. Look, I dig the game. I think it's great. It doesn't really feel like a Metal Gear game, though, which is very weird to me. What are your initial impressions over there, Nate?
Yeah, I mean, you can play it like a Metal Gear game and it works, But at the same time, there are missions where they're kind of like, yeah, you need to go in guns a-blazing, which is very not Metal Gear.
When I play the game, yeah, man, every mission is guns blazing.
Well, because you keep screwing up the stealth, I bet.
Exactly, yeah. For anyone who follows my Twitch channel, which there'll be a link in the description below, if anyone follows my Twitch streams, I did actually Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3 back to back, and people who saw that would note that I am fucking terrible at stealth.
Well, I'm trying to play it as stealthy as possible as much as I can, and I'm having a good enough time with it. It works. My biggest complaint is that the story kind of sucks and Snake's kind of quiet.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we've now had a chance to obviously really get to see Snake being voiced by Keith Sutherland, and you know, it's just not the same. I would go back to like David Hayter Snake in a heartbeat. Honestly, I still to this day do not know why they chose to go with Keith Sutherland, and you can say like, oh, you know, Keith Sutherland was the voice, he voiced Big Boss at the end of Metal Gear Solid 4, and that makes sense in a way, but I mean, like, if it would make more sense to me if it was actually swapped around. If Keith Sutherland voiced like young Snake, and David Hayter, who has a much gruffer voice when he does Snake, does the older Snake, that would make more sense to me. But it sounds weird that, considering he's supposed to be older, that his voice actually sounds less gruff.
Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of a nitpick at this point. We beat that horse enough, and he does an okay job. I just don't think he has much to work with in this game.
Yeah, he doesn't really. That's a very good point. He doesn't really talk much. He doesn't really seem to have much of a personality, just beyond sort of saying the bare minimum at any given point.
Maybe they just didn't want to pay for Kiefer Sutherland in the booth too much.
Maybe, I don't know. But yeah, it's kind of weird. It's also kind of weird that you can select your own character. Basically, you have like a combat unit that you can put whatever characters you want in there, and then you can play those characters instead of playing Snake, which is, you know, great for me because I'll play, you know, female characters because that's what I love to do. But then it's kind of weird that every time it switches over to a cutscene, it goes back to having Snake there, which would make sense if, you know, Snake had this huge part to play in the game, but as we just discussed, he very rarely ever talks, so in half those cutscenes when you're switching to Snake, he's not saying a damn word anyway.
Yeah, he's just kind of there. You see the birthday cutscene, though?
No, I've yet to see the birthday cutscene, sadly.
No, it's pretty funny.
Spoilers! No, it's fine.
No, it has nothing to do with the game, it's just if you play it on your birthday.
Oh, okay. Well, actually, my birthday's coming up, actually. My birthday is in 10 days.
Cool, so play it on your birthday and you'll get a special cutscene.
Nice, gonna do that. So yeah, look, I'm enjoying the hell out of it. I think it's a great game. I think it's leagues and leagues ahead of Metal Gear Solid 4, which I've mentioned before in the past. I think the game, if you took all the cutscenes out of the game, it would be about 2 hours by my estimation. You know, it's so much improvement on that. I would say that, you know, again, without giving anything away, I would say that Skullface is a pretty weak villain for the game. He doesn't really come up much throughout the game, and when he does, like, he has, like, and when he does, he kind of, like, has all his exposition at once. He kind of, like, there's just one scene where he explains everything all at once, and it's just a lot to take in, and that's probably, like, my biggest disappointment with it so far.
Yeah, the story is easily the weakest aspect, which is kind of a shame because it's a Metal Gear game. You expect it to be better, but I think they were trying to tie it back to the start of the franchise a little bit and not really succeeding. Yeah,
true. I mean, yeah, it does look. It's doing a great job coming full circle. You can see where there are already parts of both Metal Gear Solid 3 playing into it, as well as it's starting to lead into or dovetail into Metal Gear Solid 1, which is, you know, just a really nice sort of kind of bridge for things. Again, I haven't finished it yet. I don't know how far away from the end of it. It's a huge fucking game. I will say that much. I've probably sunk at least 20 hours into it so far, and as I said, the ending's not in sight, so don't know what's going on there. But it's definitely, like, you get a lot of bang for your buck with it. There's no question about that.
Yeah, definitely. I think they took the complaints about Metal Gear Solid 4 to heart in this one.
Yeah. But, yeah, look, super fun game. If you haven't checked it out already, try it out. It's a very big departure from previous Metal Gear games. You can... I think the other thing that I really appreciate about it is that, as you said, you can be stealthy about it. You can be very quiet. You can do that whole stealth action thing if you want. You can't go in guns blazing. I don't actually go guns blazing. What I do is that I actually have just like a really big sniper rifle with a really big silencer on it, and me and Quiet, we just like sit at opposite ends of whatever camp we're supposed to infiltrate, and we just murder the crap out of everyone before they even know we're there.
Yeah. Well, that's one way. As long as it works.
As long as it works, and I mean, that's what's really great, is that it does allow you to basically approach the mission however you want. And there was one part which I thought was really great that I had to, this is about a third of the way into the game, I had to intercept a convoy which was being guarded. So it had like an APC at the front and an APC at the rear, and there was a truck in the middle of it. And like, you have to get this uranium off this truck. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is pretty obvious to me that, you know, I've got the projected route of the of the convoy on my iPad thingy, whatever it is. So I'm just going to go ahead of where they're projected to be. I'm going to sit on one side of the road, Quiet's going to sit on the other side of the road, and as they came down the road with my sniper rifle, I just shot the driver out of the vehicle, and that was kind of it. I thought that was just really cool that it allowed me to, like, plan out how I wanted to do it, like, well in advance.
By the way, you do the quiet trick?
The quiet trick with how you capture quiet really easily.
Yeah.
Alright, yes, I did. I like, people, it's been widely kind of reported on the internet of how to capture Quiet quickly, because when you encounter Quiet, if you want her to be part of your team, you can't kill her, you have to actually capture her. And I'm not going to give it away. If you want to look it up, do it yourself. But I'm proud of the fact that I actually figured it out myself. I didn't look it up. I just kind of thought to myself, wait a second, if this does this, then this should work on her, and it totally did.
Yeah, you just see half her stamina bar go boom.
Exactly, yes. So you can insult that for yourself. If you want to spoil that for yourself, you can totally do it, but we're not going to do it here. So that's look, game's great. It's super fun. Check it out if you haven't already. That's going to do it for us this week. Thank you very much for joining. We hope you enjoyed this. We apologize for the break that we've had. They just happen from time to time. If you follow my Twitter, I definitely will let you know when a podcast is not coming up. Because of whatever reason, so at least that way you won't be disappointed if you are hanging out for it each week. So thank you very much for there, man. Speaking of Twitter and things like that, where can people find you if they want to find out what you're thinking about Metal Gear and Pokemons and other things like that all the kids are interested in these days?
You can find me on Twitter at NairmanBSC, or you can find me on my channel at BrainscratchComs.
Cool. All my social media links are in the description below, so I'm not going to spell them out. Thanks very much for watching, guys. Catch you later next week, and have yourselves a good time in the interim. We will see you later.